so much for having me. Yeah, so as mentioned, I was just till very recently heading up all of the content and sort of marketing initiatives for 500 startups. I was also an investment partner there, sourcing deals for our portfolio. I've since transitioned away from the content stuff, and I'm mainly just focused on investments because I've taken a full-time role running marketing at Reforge, which is a training organization that's helping later stage professionals to advance in their career. So we're training folks like the growth team at Instagram or Google search, folks like that to get even better at growth. And I'm really excited to be with you here today, with you all here today, to talk about email marketing because as we've just gone over, I think it's a little bit of a surprising thing that a lot of people everybody knows you're supposed to be doing email. Email is the highest ROI channel that you have for your marketing. But unfortunately, what most of us don't know is that the regular and normal things that we typically do in our email marketing that we think of even as best practices are actually hurting our open rates. And there's some very technical reasons why. And the funny thing is that this goes even to, like, nobody's really an expert in it. Even just last week at Reforge, we sent an email that ended up having lower open rates than we thought, and it was due to a technical glitch, which I will tell you guys about later in my presentation. So without further ado, let's get started because there's a lot of material to cover. I'm gonna start my screen share now, and just as a little caveat, there might be a little bit of a brightness issue on the presentation. So if it's really bad, I'm gonna ask you to holler at me and we'll switch over. I'll do it without any notes, but it's a ton of material, so I did wanna have my presenter notes, which is causing some brightness issues, but let's go for it. Let's see what we can do as is.
Yeah, great. Looks like we can see your screen. Now we can see me again. Hello. Let's go to...
Can you guys see the first screen that says open rate enemies? And it's like really dark, unfortunately.
I can see it. It's a little dark. Maybe go to the next slide and let's see if the darkness continues.
All right, the next slide is not coming up for some reason on this screen. I'm having some troubles with this. All right, you know what, you guys, I'll just do it without notes. I pretty much know what I want to talk to you about, so let me just quickly switch to my other screen.
So Susan worked with some of the guys that were on the panel yesterday. If you were in that one, these guys are quite a team of marketers. Susan, I'm sure anything that you tell us today, even if it's a 30-minute Q&A, would be awesome. But I think we can see your screen now.
But you can see it with the notes, right?
It's actually black.
It's black. I'm so sorry, you guys. What is going on with my custom person?
There it is. But yeah, it's with the notes. But if you'll full screen it, I bet that will do it.
Let's see. Is it still with the notes?
Yep.
How about that?
Still with the notes. But you know, if we can't fix it, I'm sure it's fine to present it with the notes under there. No big deal.
All right, you know what I'll just do is just make it, I'll just make it like this. If you guys can kind of see the presentation. Sorry, it's like super ugly because you're going to see all the formatting and stuff, but I want to just get through this right now because it's pretty important that we get through some of these things.
That's okay. They're saying the view is perfect now. So
all right, cool. So basically we're going to just talk about some open rate enemies. And you know, the main point I want you guys to walk away with is that these things are like really right under your nose. They're things that pretty much you think you're like doing a good job, but you're actually doing a terrible job. So let's quickly get into what those are. Straight into it. Number one, images. A lot of people think you need to include images in your email because they're engaging, or rightfully so, they might be showing off what your actual product is. Let's say you have an e-commerce or you've got a photography business. How are you supposed to market your e-commerce with a product or your photography business if you don't include some images? Here's just a little example of an email that we sent at 500 startups for, well, gosh, we just can't really tell what this was for, can we? You have this like the cards up at the top that are actually animated GIFs. And we have this very large image and world champion, a little picture of Dave, a little picture of a guy that you don't know. and really not a whole lot of other information. Well, in fact, this email was about Demo Day, which is our very, very important investor showcase day where all of our startups kind of show off what they've been building for the past 4 months to an audience of 300 investors. It's super important for this email to get those investors registered and at the event. And this email ended up being a pretty big failure because it had really low open rates. The open rates were in the low double digits, and in fact, really low delivery rates as well. And the primary culprit behind that are exactly these beautiful, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, all these beautiful images that you see here. I just want to show you guys another embarrassing example from our own wheelhouse right here. Another one for Demo Day. And what you'll see here, what do you guys see here? Well, all I see personally is this really beautiful collage image. It looks really good. The colors are nice. It's got the logo on there. Everybody looks animated. But what the heck is this email supposed to be about? We actually don't know because we have an image, a single image that occupies all of the above fold space. Now, looking at these two emails, this one and this one, you might think, gosh, it's so obvious. I would never do that. But in fact, everybody does this all the time. I subscribe to dozens of marketing newsletters from top brands, and I cannot tell you how many times I have seen this in my very own inbox, most likely in the promotions tab or sometimes even in the spam folder. Two places you do not want to go. By contrast, I decided to do a little test, and I sent this same email from slide 3, this one. I sent the same email to myself. We use HubSpot at 500 Startups, and I used HubSpot to send myself the same email as a plain text version. Now, note that plain text, I do not advocate sending messages in plain text because you can't track your open rates in them. The way that emails do their open and click tracking is through HTML emails. It's through a pixel, that's an image pixel that's actually gets loaded in the email. So if you send it as plain text, you will not be able to do the tracking that you need to know whether or not things are working. But I wanted to send this test message as a plain text just as sort of a gut check, just to see what does this email actually look like? What's the major contrast if I send it as text only? And the interesting thing you guys will notice here is that there's a huge difference. What are the things that stand out in this plain text version of the same email? To me, it is the call to action link, the place that you need to go to sign up for this all-important event that we're trying to market to you. It's right there 2 times above the fold instead of, as in this example, 0 times above the fold. Other stuff that stands out to me is as I'm scanning the plain text version, gosh, all right, it's May 5th, 2016. It's in San Francisco. It's a last call. And the other one's May 13th, 2000, that's a typo, 2016. It's in Mountain View, California, and I need to RSVP. There's all sorts of clear information that then leads into a call to action. Now, of course, this is not, a marketing mastermind kind of email because it's a simple plain text email. But I wanted to show this to you guys because to me, this simple plain text email with, quote, 0 marketing will actually perform better in terms of getting people to your landing page. In this case, the landing page was just an RSVP page. It's more effective at getting people to your landing page than this beautifully designed, supposedly more marketing-friendly type of email. So that's a get check for you for regarding images in emails. Now, what if you do have to include images in your emails? I've got 3 quick fixes for you guys. The first thing is be sure you're only including a single image. It's all too tempting to include a carousel of images. Let's say, going back to that e-commerce example, let's say you are that e-commerce and you want to show lots of pictures of your different products because, gosh, you just can't pick one and, maybe that one isn't the one that people want and they might want to buy something else that's a related product. That's sensible, that makes sense, but you know what? You are actually fragmenting people's attention, and not only that, you're weighing down your email and you're signaling to email service providers like Gmail that you belong in the promotions tab or maybe even in spam because you're sending so many pictures in your dang emails. The second quick fix is to include an image alt text. And what I mean is, as you're setting up your email campaign, you have the option, because that email campaign is in HTML, you have the option to set text behind your email, behind your image, and I highly encourage you to use image alt text. You can use something along the lines of click view images to see this picture. And in fact, sometimes having a curious or strange or funny picture or cool picture in there and having an alt text that says, click to view the weird picture or click to view a picture of what I mean is a good way to kind of trick the email provider to get people to open your emails more, get people to expand your images, and get people to sort of whitelist your sender. The third quick fix is to overall reduce the size of the image. I know this is not ideal because for those of us who are tempted to include images in emails, it's because we want to put in something big and beautiful. But if you are finding that you're putting in something big and beautiful and you're getting open rates below 20%, then you might have to make some trade-offs there. In which case, I highly recommend you to reduce the size of the image itself, and you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you right now, but the size that you need to reduce it to is below 300 pixels in either direction. It's pretty small, but through my own pretty extensive testing with sending lots of pictures, I too am a culprit of liking sending pictures in my emails. I found that the smaller images do work better. They won't flag your email as spam or as a promotion quite as often. All right, quickly moving on. The next email enemy related to that is email size. Sometimes we just can't resist including so much information in our email to the point that this happens. Do you guys see this right here? Message clipped. Now, the danger of message clipped happens in two ways, twofold, okay? The number one danger, like the primary danger of message clipped, is that it's clipping off part of your content. And often, because of the way we design our emails, it's often clipping off your call to action. And so even if people did want to click on your big, beautiful button and go to your landing page, it might be hidden behind that message clipped, in which case they would actually have to click to view the entire message, click to expand the message before they even see your call to action. Now, how motivated does an email recipient have to be in order to go through 2 layers of clicking in order to get to a call to action or get to a landing page? They have to be pretty darn motivated, and I don't know how that many people in this day and age receiving over 500 emails, marketing emails per month that are that motivated. The secondary problem with having a really long message, with having a really large message, has to do with the open tracking itself. Oftentimes, your open tracking pixel is going to be at the very bottom of the email in the footer. And if it gets clipped, so does that part of the email that has the tracking pixel. So you won't actually be collecting accurate data. You might be getting really low open rates because your messages are really long and because they're not going to the primary inbox. But it could also even just be because the tracking pixel itself isn't getting expanded in your email, which is another danger because you've got to have accurate data if you are to improve your email marketing. So here's just another embarrassing example from some of our previous work at 500 Startups, which we quickly cleaned up after we realized this takeaway. In this email, which was, again, presenting the companies that we're going to show at a recent demo day, not only did they have this huge kind of header image up here and these really big logos, but I counted 28 more images before the message was clipped. Now, very sensibly in crafting an email, you would kind of show all of the information. At the very bottom of it, you would say, call to action, RSVP here, or learn more about these companies here, or invest in these companies here. But unfortunately, because of those 28 plus these 3 plus that top image at the top there, that valuable call to action actually got clipped and was only visible when you click view entire message, which opens it up in a new browser, which very few people did. So these were some of the problems that were contributing to our literally single-digit open rates on some of these emails. I'm very sad to admit, but that's what was happening, and very low click rates. So quick fixes for that, you guys, just really 3 quick things. Number 1, again, can't emphasize this enough, just text. Email was meant for sending text communication. We marketers are the ones that have stuffed it full of tons of other things. We try to stuff all these pictures in it. We try to stuff animation. We try to make an email a landing page, but an email is not a landing page. An email is a text. It's a piece of text that's a messenger for your landing page that is over on the other side of the fence. Just keep that in mind. Your email is not the landing page itself. Number 2, quick fix for a really long or really heavy email. have people click through for longer content. So actually, you guys probably know, since you're subscribed to Neil Patel's newsletter, he does an amazing job with this over at QuickSprout. He's my #1 example for click through for longer content. He does a custom summary of his content. You guys know that he does really long blog posts. He would never include the entire blog post there in the email itself as its own landing page. Instead, he has a quick little summary and he has you click through for the longer content. The trick is to get really good at copywriting so that you motivate people to do that click through. Final quick fix, make your CTA near the top, not at the bottom of your email. And that's simply because you never know if you're going to get truncated. And even if you don't get truncated by Gmail, chances are you'll still get truncated by people's own attention span, in which case, put your CTA near the top so that they can't miss it. Here's a really quick example from my friend Steve Chu at mywifequitherjob.com. Steve runs several six-figure online e-commerce businesses apart from his day job as an engineer. And one of them is My Wife Quit Her Job, which teaches people how to do an online e-commerce business. And this email is a really good example of all of the principles that I just outlined, because he's got click here to sign up for free as a really short, simple call to action that's super clear. Like, look at this. The great thing about having a link when you have a text-only email is, guess what? Everything's black and white, and the beautiful link is blue. It's so clear what you're supposed to do. And I'll just give another quick shout out to Steve. I really like how he's crafted this call to action. Click here to sign up for free. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nothing confusing there. You know exactly what you got to do. You got to click. And where do you got to click? Right here. And what are you going to do when you click? You're going to sign up. And how much is it going to cost you? Well, it's free. Very, very clear. Top of the page. Key information up front. Bullet points. Nothing tricky. No heavy images. All right, enemy number 3 is one of my favorite enemies. And the reason why it's a favorite enemy is because it is the easiest to defeat. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be a copywriter. You don't have to be a marketer. Unverified sender identity, all too common. In fact, we were even doing this with our Reforge emails up until recently when we got our sender identity verified. Quick example of what that means. If you expand right here, this is from Waka Waka, which makes LED lights for the developing countries. If you expand this little arrow here, you'll see all this other information about this email sender. The mailing list is this kind of other mailing list. It's signed by God knows who, and it doesn't really look too great. They're obviously using MailChimp, as you can see right here. Again, nothing wrong with MailChimp. I have a slide about that later. By contrast, here's another email newsletter from the Mattermark Daily. Mattermark is a data company that shares data about in the venture capital industry and about privately held companies. And they send a daily newsletter. So their newsletter is their bread and butter. So they've really got to get their email marketing right. And they do. Mailed by Mattermark.com, signed by Mattermark.com. Their domain is verified. All right, I don't want you guys to get too caught up in the weeds there. Instead, just do 2 things for me, please. Check your domain key status at this URL, mail-tester.com/these letters, all right? And then check your sender score at mail-tester.com overall. Just check your sender score. MailTester will tell you what your sender score is on a scale of 10. You should be aiming for a 9. And the great thing about MailTester is that it's going to save us lots of time in this presentation, because it'll give you a point-by-point of what you need to fix in your sender score. So just go to the site, do it right now, got to do it today, and then figure out what you need to fix. If you need to verify your domain key or your SPF, really easy, just Google domain key and whatever email marketing tool you're using, whether that's MailChimp or whether that's HubSpot or something else. Just Google it and you'll find the help article for it, and then you go and execute it. Promise me you will do that today, because that's going to make a really big difference, between 5 and up to even 30% difference in your open rates. 30% if your open rates are really, really bad right now. Enemy number 5, bad subject lines. This one is a little bit harder to fix. And everybody wants sort of like a quick fix for it. The best way to learn about bad subject lines is to look at some examples. Here's a couple of bad subject lines, and one of them is actually from 500 events. Now, you guys just take a look at these. Your June hot picks. Something big is on the horizon. Verify your subscription. Don't miss out on the latest from Crunchbase. And 500 events, just recap. That's all it says. Again, nothing offensive or overtly wrong with these subject lines, except that they simply don't say anything. They're simply not copywritten and they're not click-worthy. They don't achieve the goal of describing, and they certainly don't pique my curiosity. Instead, what we want to do is aim for hot subject lines. I've got a couple of tricks on this slide for hot subject lines that will guaranteed raise your subject line awareness. The first one is to make it seem like a reply. The second one is to make it seem like a forward. The third one is to use one of these three hot words, you, new, or now. We are simply hardwired to respond to things that are about us or that feel like they're highly personalized towards us. Therefore, when subject lines say re, forward, or you or now, things that really speak to us by name, we can't help but click. Now, I actually have this next slide that shows you hot subject lines here, but instead of going through these, because we're a little bit pressed for time, I've got one tip for you guys. Whatever your political affiliation, go right now to HillaryClinton.com and sign up for her email newsletter. Whoever is on the email marketing team for the Clinton campaign is on fire. They're doing some of the most cutting edge email marketing and some of the most scary, tricky subject lines I have ever seen. So if you really want to be a student of like black belt email marketing, go and subscribe to that, filter all those emails into an inbox, and then every day go and study what's going on there. Look at the entire flow from the subject line to the body to the call to action to the landing page. And be careful that you might accidentally end up donating money. That is the one caveat to that. So instead of going through these, just go and subscribe. That's probably the political email marketers are really the cutting edge in this day and age. They're kind of farther ahead than even the internet marketers. So I would say go there if you really want to study. I have one example from my own vault where I got a 66.7% open rate on a 50,000 person list that had previously been getting about a 19% open rate. It was pretty dormant. It was a one-word subject line called changes. And I also custom wrote the preview text. We wanted to let you know that there are some changes coming. Now, the reason why the subject line worked so well is because it was an interrupter of a pattern. Most of us are used to being blasted with marketing stuff. Most of us are used to seeing things that just look like they're trying to sell us something. But when we see something like changes, we get a whiff of, oh wait, maybe something bad is gonna happen. Or maybe there's a car crash that I need to go and check out. There's a little bit of negativity or fear in there, but just enough that we don't really know and we have to open it to find out. Hence this almost 67% open rate. The next enemy of your email marketing open rates is just plain bad content. And let me tell you really quickly why bad content hurts your open rate so much. The number one predictor of your future open rates is your current content. So if you have really bad content that doesn't say anything, that's full of images, that basically doesn't give anything back to people for that time that they invested in opening and reading your email, then they'll have very little reason to continue opening your emails in the future. You can always trick people into opening your email with a tricky subject line, but if you don't consistently deliver value, then your open rates will plummet across the life of your email marketing. I've got a couple of examples, but we're a little bit short on time for those, and I do want to get into some of the later stuff. So I'm just going to skip through these examples. And I will just say that the key to really great content is knowing who you're talking to and segmenting those groups and sending the right messages to the right people. Segmentation and great content means sending good emails to the right people. There is no such thing as across the board best content. The best content is always in the context of the right people at the right time in their customer life cycle. And so segmentation, aka knowing who those people are by groups, is very key to sending great email content. Here's how a couple of ways you can segment, even if you're early in your marketing career. Number one, you can always segment by acquisition channel. So, where did they come from? Did they come from Facebook? Did they come from SEO? Did they come from a referral? You can segment them by an acquisition campaign. Did they come from like a 30-day trial thing? Did they come from like a partnership thing? That will indicate some level of interest and some level of who they are. You can segment by demographic or geography if you have this data in your Google Analytics. You can segment them by the offer that brought them in, which is similar to segmenting them by the acquisition campaign, but it gets a little bit more specific. You can segment them by device if they're on desktop or mobile, or even what type of mobile device they're on. You can segment them by time. So, for example, what time what type of person they are and what time they're going to most likely be looking at their emails, whether that's a weekday or a weekend or commute time, or maybe they're working at home, they don't have a commute time. And you can always segment them by simply asking them. Asking them doesn't always work as well because people just aren't going to be super responsive, but you can use numbers 1 through 6 to get you on your path to starting to create good content. And then once you've started to build a relationship with your good content, then might be a good time to actually ask people. I want to get to something really important. Your biggest enemy of all is your ice cold list. This is not enemy number 4. I didn't number this correctly. So the biggest enemy of all to open rates is a dormant list. This is something that we struggled with at Reforge. It's something that we've struggled with at 500 Startups. If you ever have an open rate of less than 20%, a delivery rate, very, very important, of less than 99%, or an unsubscribe rate of over 3%, that's really high, then you have dormant subscribers. There's a statistic out there that's not true for every list, but this is the general statistic, that 60% of email subscribers on lists around the world are dormant. 60%. If 60% of your subscribers are dormant, how are you ever going to hit a 60% open rate? The key is you've got to wake up those dormant subscribers. The best way to wake up dormant subscribers is not to let them fall asleep in the first place. Huge mistake that I see most people making when they're getting started with email marketing is that they get really excited, they start people on their email list, and they think, well, I'll just collect them on there. I don't have to email them right now because I don't have anything to say just yet. I'll just collect them on there, and when I figure out my email marketing plan, then that's when I'll start emailing them. Unfortunately, that's just not good enough, and that's actually hurting you for when you do get your email marketing going. Instead, just quick and dirty, get out an activation formula right now. Here's one that you can basically just swipe. You can just copy and kind of tailor to your audience. Day 0, you want to do a quick welcome email. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Just get something out there. Here, day 1, you can do a little quick fear base. The main goal is to have them activate now. Basically, days 1 through day 7 is all about getting them to activate, whatever activate means for your business. And then day 8, you can get them ready for the back burner. And when I say back burner, I don't mean that you're not going to email them ever again. I mean that you're going to put them on sort of like an automated loop where you're sending them an email an email newsletter once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once every month. Something that doesn't require quite so much sort of customization or segmentation. You're just kind of sending them a newsletter. So I have a little saying that goes, activation merely unlocks further activation, which to me means that our work is never really done with activation. Let's say you activate somebody into clicking onto your landing page. Well, that's great. Now there's somebody who not only opened, but there's somebody who also clicked, so they're more interested. If you want to get them even more interested, you've got to have a next level of kind of ask that you want for them after they've clicked onto your landing page. Maybe it's time to get them to buy. That's like the further activation. So that's the next kind of step in activation. Now, maybe once they've bought, they've transacted one time, maybe the next step in activation is they buy again 2 times, so they become a repeat purchaser. And then maybe after they become a repeat purchaser, maybe the next step in activation is that they actually start referring their friends to your service. And so on and so forth. So activation is really just sort of an increasing spectrum. It never really just goes to the first step of activation and then stops. All right, so the most important thing, we're about to wrap up here, is that open rate is a vanity metric. Now, what I mean by that is that to me, conversions are the most important thing. A lot of people forget that the whole reason why we do email marketing, the whole reason why we do marketing in general is not just to hear ourselves talk, but actually to get people to take action, whatever that action is. Here's how you do that. In all of your emails, include multiple links to the same destination, not to a scattered bunch of destinations. Remember, you want to get conversions. You just want them to do one thing and do it well. Number two, make sure there are no leaks. So that means no social buttons. Now, I don't know what other presenters have said during this virtual summit, but I'm a big opponent of including social buttons in your email simply because you just want to get them to that one destination where they're going to convert. Number three, retarget your unopens. Don't think that just because people didn't open your email, it's because they don't like you or they're not interested. It could very well be because they simply missed it. Hey, look, our inboxes are chaos. We get hundreds of emails a day, some of us. Sometimes we just need to be retargeted so that we can get another chance, a second chance to open something that could have been interesting to us the first time around. Here's one of my favorite examples from a friend of mine, Ramit Sethi, who is really an email and content mastermind out there in the world that I really look up to. In this sales email for his course, Find Your Dream Job, he's got 3 links above the fold, right here in the first line, right here on this little logo here, this small logo that's kind of like a big green button. And then down here, hyperlinking the word simple step-by-step system. Now, the really great thing about this is that all of these links lead to the same sales page. All roads lead to Rome. They're not going to different places. They're not going to different explanations. They're going to the same sales page. So whatever link you click on, you're going to get netted into the same place. So this is a very conversion-oriented email. Whew, okay, almost done here. A lot of people tend to ask me about email tools, and I was thinking about this today. I just added this on here because I think it's pretty important to sort of think about not what's the right tool for me, but more what's the right tool for my stage. So the way I think about it is sort of in terms of like light, medium, and heavyweight. MailChimp. A lot of you guys are probably using MailChimp. I use MailChimp for some of my, from my side projects, and I really love MailChimp because it's super easy to use. It's really easy to do segmentation. They've got very, very friendly pricing, starting as little as free to $10 a month. But then it's got some downsides too. You're going to be sending on shared IPs, which will hurt your ability to get into primary inbox. And it's very SMB focused, which if you're an SMB, that's totally fine. But if you're ready to if you're a little bit of a bigger business, that might not be a good fit for all of your needs. Medium, I don't know if the Autopilot CEO, Mike Sharkey, was a speaker at the virtual summit, but he's built an amazing tool with their team there. I love Autopilot. I think it's a great tool, and I would easily just go with Autopilot for everything. But for the fact that it's not quite as easy to integrate with content and sales emails the way HubSpot, which is my heavyweight pick, is. So I don't know how many of you guys have ever had a chance to use HubSpot, probably only if you've worked in a big company because it's quite expensive. But it's a wonderful tool that lets you integrate with landing pages, that lets you integrate with one-on-one sales emails, plus a CRM, and do dedicated IPs, whitelist your domain. You're going to have maximum kind of delivery and open rate potential there. But again, because it's a little bit more enterprise focused, it's on the pricier side. But take that for what it is. Now you guys kind of know what the spectrum is because there's a lot of email marketing tools out there. And I really encourage you to think about it in terms of not what's right for me, but what's right for the stage that I'm at, and maybe accept the fact that you might change at some point in the future. All right, so I'm going to skip the recap, although it's right there because we're a little bit short on time. And I'll just put my information out there because I assume that you guys will probably have some questions. Please feel welcome. Feel free to contact me at any time on LinkedIn or on Twitter at Susan F. Su. I respond to both. And then I've got a little side project called Email for Startups, where I've published 43 or put together 43 scripts that I've used for all the companies that I advise at 500 startups. I just basically got tired of helping them over and over again with the same thing on their email marketing, so I just pulled it together as scripts. And there's really tons more information. I don't consider myself an expert. I just consider myself an advanced learner of email marketing. So I would be happy to have you message me at any time about this.